Welcome back to UDK Essentials. I am your instructor, D'Amico L. Cunningham, and today we're going to talk about how to actually use triggers and how to trigger audio inside of UDK. So let's get our heads wrapped around this whole trigger thing. So inside of UDK, you have, or inside of any game, you actually have items that you can interact with. So when you walk up to a light switch in a room, and usually for UDK it's the E key that's the use key. So when you walk up to the switch and you press the E key, that will activate or deactivate the light. Now you also have a thing called volumes. So you have volumes that can do a ton of different things inside of UDK. So if we look over here in right below our CSG brushes, we have this add volume button. And this is our add special brush. We're not going to work about this right now. We're going to just continue to work about this add volume. So I'm going to right click on add volume, and you can see I have a couple of different volumes in here. I have a blocking volume that's probably going to be pretty useful, gravity volume, ladder volumes, physics, portals. I even have, which was what we're concerned with right now, is I have a trigger volume. So this trigger volume is going to act as a trigger. So as we walk through this volume, it will activate something inside of UDK for us. So first of all, I'm going to do this. I'm going to come here to my brushes. I'm going to right click on the cube, and I'm going to say 2040, 2048. Actually, let's do 1024. By 1024. By 1024. I'm going to make this cubed. Now, I don't need to do hollow because you have to remember that this is just going to be a box that I walk right into. So it doesn't have to be hollow because it's going to be invisible. That's the one thing about your trigger volumes. They are invisible. So most of your volumes are actually invisible in your world. You can't see them. You can just walk through them. When you walk through them, the volume will activate. So I'm going to grab my builder brush. I've got it set up. It's 1024 cubed, so it's a cube, right? And I'm going to go ahead and close this because I've already made my builder brush the size that I need. And I'm going to right click on volumes and go down here to trigger volume and click on trigger volume. And when I move my builder brush, you can see I have this green wireframe in here, this really light green wireframe. This is my trigger. Now if I really wanted to, I could come in here and actually name this trigger. If I hit F4 on the keyboard, it opens up the properties to this trigger, and I could come in here and actually give this trigger a name. And really the name would just be for visual purposes. So it doesn't really change anything about my trigger. It realistically just gives me a name to be able to look at in those terms. But I'm gonna leave my trigger alone for right now. So the next thing that I want to do is I'm gonna jump over into Audition really quick. So let's jump over into Audition. So here we are inside of Audition, and I'm using CS6. I'm actually on the Creative Suite 6, but that doesn't make any bit of a difference. We still can do everything that you're doing if you're using CS 5.5 or earlier versions of Audition. Then that's completely fine. So let's go find some audio. So I'm just going to go and grab myself a piece of audio, and I'll look in the sound effect library, and I'm going to look in Household. And you can do what we're about to do. You can do this with any sound, like with any sound. You can be able to do this. So let's say we do. Oh, I don't know. We need something that's going to be pretty long. I probably don't want to use that. Let's look for there we go. Exterior atmospheres, and I've got High Street and Small Town. So I'll grab this and let it import, and we'll hit spacebar for it to play. we can see that we're getting some nice levels on this. One of the things that I want to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to chop this down right about here, because I want this kind of right where it starts at, if that makes sense. I want to get this right in here where it starts. So I'm going to delete that out. And when you're saving out files to use inside of UDK, you have to be very specific about the file type and the file and the way you save it. Currently right now you can see that this is an MP3 and the sample rate is 44.1 on the hertz for the sample rate. We need to change these, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to come in here and say File and say Save As, and I'm going to save this to my desktop. Like, I want to save this to my desktop. So we'll say desktop, and I'll just leave the same name. What I want to change right here is I want to change the format. I want to change this to a WAV file. And I also want to change the sample type. And I'm going to say I want to change this, and I'm going to put this at 32,000 hertz. And I'm going to change the bit depth to 16. Now, this sound is going to be a simple sound. So for me, I don't really need the stereo soundtrack. What I can do is turn this to mono, and what will happen is it will take one track of audio and it will actually play the audio through the left and right speaker, but it's realistically the same sample of audio. Because if we look at our audio behind this, if we see our audio here, we can see we do actually have stereo tracks of audio, because this one does not completely match this. So by looking at the variations in the two, I can see that I actually really do have two independent channels of audio, but I'm going to make that into one. And then the reason why I'm going to do that, that saves a little bit of space on my sound, because with it being uncompressed as an uncompressed wave, it's going to be a pretty big sound, right? So I've got this set up the desktop. It's set to wave. It is set sample type to 32,000 hertz. I'm going to do it mono and then do it 16-bit. And it's telling me right here the estimated file size is about 15 megs. And I'm going to hit OK and let it export out. And there it is, it's exported out, and you see I now have one mono track. But when I listen to it on my speakers and my headphones, it still sounds as though it is a stereo track. It's just taking this one track and then and then outputting it through both speakers. So that's the trick. So now we've got this, let's jump back over into UDK. And inside of UDK, I'm going to open up the content browser. So I'm going to hit Control, Shift, and F to open up that content browser. I'm also going to make myself a brand new package inside of UDK. So if you're not familiar with making packages, then we'll go through that right now. So to make a new package, I'm just going to do this. I'm in my content browser. I'm going to say New. And right here, you'll see it says My Package. You can change this to whatever name you want to. This is how you name your brand new package. Alright? And the other thing is you cannot make an empty package inside of UDK. There has to be something inside of it when you first make it. So if you look here, these factories, these are the assets that you are going to import into your package. So what we're going to do by default, because I know I'm going to have to make this anyway, is this sound cue. I'm going to go ahead and say factory and choose a sound cue. And I'm going to call this sound cue outdoor sound. And I'm going to hit OK. When I hit OK, you see, if you look inside of my content browser, you can see that it's made my underscore package. And inside of my underscore package, there's a brand new sound cue. And what it did was it actually opened up the sound cue editor. Well, I don't have any sound right now to work with, so I'm going to close this. And if you look, there's asterisks beside each one of these packages. So I'm going to right click on that package and say save. Now, this is something you have to be very careful about. The first time that UDK saves a package, it will ask you where you want to save that package to. The next time, it's not going to ask you where to save that package, right? So when you set that up next time, it's not going to say, oh yeah, well we're going to put it here, then you can save it here. No. Wherever UDK saves that package, it will continue to save to the same exact spot. So my suggestion, as you're building your levels, is to make yourself a folder. Inside of that folder, have your UDK file, which is your map file, and also have your UPK files, which will be your package files. That way, whenever you move, if you go to another computer, or you want to use someone else's machine to continue working on your map, you will have both of the files that you need with all of the assets within that you really need. Now, if you're working on your own home computer and you know everything's going to be in the exact same place every time, you can just save your package to the normal folder where all the other content for UDK is saved. And usually that's on your C drive, and it's UDK, whatever the version number is of that version of UDK, inside of the game folder and inside of content. And you can see right now, you can see in here some UPK files that are actually UPK files from Epic. So I'm just going to save this in my default place because I know that I'm not going to move my project once I've made it. So I'm going to say save. And sometimes what will happen is UDK will close your package. When you save your package, sometimes it'll close your package. But if that ever happens where it closes your package, you can always do this. You know that you've saved it. You can say you want to open an external package. So I'm going to say open external package, and then look for my package, and there's my package right there, and I'm going to say open. And it's telling me that I can't open it because it's already open. So it's sitting right here. And one thing you'll notice is that my package is actually inside of the content folder of the UDK game. So I saved it in a normal place where all the other maps and all the other UDK files are being stored. So next thing, let's bring in our audio. So I'm going to say import, and I'm going to go to the desktop, and we'll get our sound, and I'll say open. Now the one thing you have to be you have to keep in mind is that UDK does not like spaces. Anytime you have a space, if you want to keep that space, you're going to have to replace the space with an actual underscore, because it does not like spaces. It does not like them at all. It crushes them in its sleep. So you can see right now that I'm not making a new package. I'm doing an import, and I'm importing into my package, and I've renamed my file. Now the file that the renaming that I've done will not change the name of my original file. It'll only change the name that the file is referenced by inside of UDK. Alright, so I'm going to hit OK. And yes, I do want to fully load it, and I'll say yes. And you can see now that I have High Street, Small Town, and I have Outdoors Sound as my sound cue, and this is my sound node wave. Alright, now that I have those two in there, I'm going to save. Let it save out. Now the other thing that's really great about the package files is that anything that you import into a package file will be embedded into that file. So it's not like other programs where it's just a placeholder link. When you import your files into a UPK package file, they are actually stored inside of that file, and they stay there. So even if you were to lose your original audio file from the desktop, you would still have that file inside of the UPK file. Alright, so let's do a little bit of a recap. So what we've done is we've made a trigger inside of UDK, so we have a trigger, and we brought in a sound cue, and we actually imported our sound node wave. We were also able to make ourselves a package, and we understand how to save those packages. Now, in our next video, we're going to go through setting all this stuff up inside of Kismet and being able to get our sound playing inside of Kismet. We'll be right back.